My mom keeps saying, the only way left for you to make money is to not do anything more legal anymore.
AI and humans, the conflict. I look at collaboration.
And AI can actually be an existential crisis for creators.
What's the point of starting now? Dhruv Rathi is Dhruv Rathi. Joe Rogan podcast is the podcast. Andrew Huberman is the podcast. How do you explain that there is enough business for everyone?
To $500 billion in a span of 4 years.
You think there's scope for new platforms?
If to your question, is this the right time? Hell yes.
How has been your experience working with Meta?
I feel like it's a great company, frankly, to be working in.
Why this book at this time?
I've been talking to a lot of creators. Small creators might have even 5,000 followers and they are already making a decent amount of money. Large influencers who might have a lot of followers but they're still not making money.
तो पैसे कैसे कमाएं? Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the PVT Show Podcast, where we have conversations that truly energize your mind. What do you think about creator economy? The creator economy, the new gold rush. What if I told you that we are standing at the biggest wealth creation opportunity of the 21st century? Would you believe me? Because that's exactly what the creator economy is all about. It was valued at $127 billion in 2023, set to skyrocket to $528 billion by 2030. That's the opportunity that we're talking about. Only in India, it is growing at a 25% CAGR, reaching $4 billion in next 5 years. But here's the catch, my friend. Most creators fail. Why? Because they don't know how to make money or the business side of creators' economy. This is the problem at hand, which we are trying to solve today in this podcast. Enter author Ankur Mehra's world, the man who scaled creator partnerships from 0 to 120,000 creator partnerships at Meta, the parent company of Facebook. From being an Indian Army captain to a business corporate strategist to an author, he's decoded the creator's economy playbook in his upcoming book, Pixels to Profits. If you are thinking or rethinking about making money in the creator's economy and how monetization can be done, then this is your podcast. This is your masterclass. We are breaking myths, unlocking monetization secrets, and revealing the real formula for creators' success. Who is this podcast for? Well, creators, entrepreneurs, digital dreamers. This is your gold rush moment. Are you ready for it? Let's deep dive in the world of very awesome author Ankur Mehra. Hey Ankur, welcome to the PVT Show, where we have conversations that truly energize one's mind.
Thank you very much. I look forward to this.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How is Bombay treating you, by the way?
Oh, well, Bombay is good. I mean, especially coming from the Delhi ka thand, this is much better right now.
Is much better.
Yeah, it's almost like a vacation right now here.
Wonderful.
It's much good. Yeah, it's much better.
I want to not start this podcast like how a podcast happens. This is primarily my second conversation with an author not from the spiritual background.
Oh.
And that is very interesting for me. And I am superbly excited to be doing this conversation because यहाँ पे होने वाली है absolutely काम की बात.
Great.
And काम की बात is nothing but
हमारा काम भी बहुत interesting है.
money, that is what we will be talking. And I was fascinated to know that you have, with your background and with your skill set and with your leadership in the creator economy, is now coming out with a book on it.
Yes.
And you're going to be telling people how to make money in the creator economy. It is superbly. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I am so honored that this is going to be almost your first podcast related to your book, which is happening on the PVT show. So
that's brilliant. Yeah, you're right, actually. Yes.
Thank you so much.
I'm really, really honored to be here with you today. And I know that I've seen your previous podcasts and the previous interviews, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I'm really privileged to be here with you today. So thank you for having me.
Our viewers to be looking at your book.
Oh, yes.
And
this is it.
This is where people will look at it. What a fab title, Pixels to Profits, a systematic deep dive into the creator economy. What is deep dive? Ankur, if you could just decode this bit for us.
Well, this is a little bit of a creative take on something that I love doing, which is deep diving. And deep diving as in the open water sea diving, like deep diving.
You do diving?
I'm a scuba diver. So this
Wow.
this really comes from there actually.
Okay.
But it's also very symbolic for me because if you look at it when you're diving and you're going into the depths of the water, it's a very beautiful world out there. It is absolutely life altering. The beauty, the mother nature, the creativity of the colors over there. It always is a spiritual journey for me when I'm going underwater.
Wow.
The best part is that when you're going there, when you're doing the dive, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what will happen when you go around that corner and, when you're swimming across that bend, you don't know what to expect.
Yes.
But every time you go there, you just have to trust three things. One is your equipment. You have to trust your equipment that, everything is fine. Second, you have to trust your own skill set that whatever you're doing is the right thing.
Yes.
And number three, you should enjoy the journey. Enjoy the views, enjoy the, the pace at which you're going. And I feel that is exactly what the creator economy is also. Because when you are in the creator economy, it's a beautiful world. There are so many creative people out here doing such amazing work, and you can just literally enjoy everywhere you're going, and you can see and learn and, inspire yourself. But at the same time, you don't know what to expect. There could be algorithm changes, there could be platform banning, there could be, some things which are out of your control.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for anything that comes in. And the reason and the way to do that is to trust your equipment, which is, trust your own storytelling, trust your craft, trust your, the resources that you have of telling the story. The second piece is, in trusting your own capabilities of being able to coming out of that situation. That if you are in the creator economy and if something goes wrong, if the platform changes or the algorithm changes, you should know that you have an original story to be told to your audiences, to your community, and you should trust that, that relationship that you have with your community. And the third is enjoying the process, where you actually, whatever ups and downs will happen, they will keep on happening. But at the same time, just enjoy the journey because it's worth being a creator in today's world. It's worth being a small and medium business trying to leverage on the creator economy in this world today. So yeah, just enjoy the journey at the same time. So this deep dive is actually a bit of a symbolic relationship to the book, to my diving.
That is how beautiful. I never thought that you have connected your actual live deep diving experience to a word which is deep dive. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
This, I have seen people thinking and acknowledging this profession, which is a new profession, right? As a profession which is meant for people who are not always creative, but people who are wanting to, aspiring to do something. And now because it is the nin thing, so okay, let's try to be a creative.
Yeah.
I want to ask you what it takes to be a creator. That's one. And secondly, as a follow-up, who is a creator? If in your definition you can define.
Well, first things first, what does it take to be a creator? I think the first thing that needs to be is that hopefully you have a story to be told. You have a message for the world. You have something that you really want to share with the rest of the universe. So if you are a creator, hopefully you have something which is unique about the way that you want to express yourself to the world outside. Oftentimes I see like a lot of folks, they take a lot of content which is already there on the internet and just reshare it across the board. I personally feel like that's not being very creative. That's not being creative unless you add your own masala to it.
Yes.
You add your own perspective to that piece of content and then you recycle that content, that's fine. But give your own perspective to it. So that's where I feel like, this is who a creator should be and is. In terms of the formal definition of what the creator is, I feel like the way I look at it is that anybody who makes content on the social media platforms and gets paid for it or is making money out of it or is using social media platform as the first destination for them to, express their creativity and making some revenue out of it.
Right.
I think that would be a creator. It doesn't need to be any person who's making a lot of money should only be classified as a, creator. But if you are making content for the social media platform and that is your first stop or the first area of, let's say your first point of engagement with your audiences, then you're a creator from a formal point of view of looking at it. A counter view is like there are a lot of theater artists.
Yes.
There could be a lot of movie artists. Are they also creators? Well, they are, I would say they're celebrities, they are influencers in their own space. But if they are making content primarily on the social media platform first, then they become more sort of creators in the original native language.
Right.
But if they are celebrities whose first platform of choice is television or movies, then they are not in the typical sense of the word creators for the social media. It is how I look at it. But
Sure.
again, many people do make content on TVs and movies and etc. And then they do make content on social media, and then they start, monetizing that content as well. We've seen a lot of Bollywood, Hollywood actors now becoming massive creators in the
yes.
social media space. So anything which is to do with the social media space where you're making content and using it as a first port of call to revenue, to create revenue, I think that's a creator.
That's the most interesting thing, that how to make revenue. We'll come to that. Your story, your background is fantastic and very, very interesting. So I was talking to somebody, I said, this is a great story of bullets to business. So
Bullets
a
to
man
business,
who was
okay.
trained to handle bullets, I want us to reflect back. So for example, Ankur, let's take this experience and little meditative experience on this, that I want to be talking to 6'7", let's say 6'7", your height would be this much, 6'7" Ankur.
Okay.
What were you thinking?
Oh.
What you wanted to become? These are the very strong thoughts, every child is always thinking of, I'll become this, I'll become that.
100%.
You thought about?
Except for today's generation.
Yes.
They don't know what they want to do. Just
We
joking.
always, yeah.
Well, I have a teenage son. But yes, let me come back to my story. Forget about 6'7". I think when I was the moment I could realize that I'm a human being and there's something that I have in terms of
What
aspirations.
age was that?
I would say even 5 years or even
Okay.
before. The only thing I always wanted to do in my life was to join the army.
Really?
Period. There was no other inspiration, motivation, anything, any aspiration for me other than joining the army. And that was also because my father was in the army. So my dad was in the army and he would always wear that uniform and all. And from the day I opened my eyes, and that's what I could see. And I was born in a military hospital also. So the only thing that I wanted to do in my life, in my entire life, was to join the army. That is my first love, period.
Yeah.
So, the first chance I got after my graduation, even before my graduation finished, even before I had done the third year of my graduation, I was already selected in the army. And then, of course, I joined the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun and completed the training of 1.5 years over there and got commissioned in the army straight up. There was nothing else that I wanted to do in life at that time.
And then what happened? How did the story unfold?
Well, I guess life happens in the sense that, as any youngster, as any teenage boy, I really wanted to join the army. I did accomplish what I wanted to do as my North Star. But then as I was in the army, I started to realize that there is probably more to life as well. And there are opportunities to explore even beyond. And that's, I think, where my ambitious part of me kind of came up, came to the forefront. And I felt that I had contributed, I had done what I wanted to do for my country.
Correct.
And I had, been in the army, had fulfilled my own childhood ambition. And now maybe I was ready to try something else in life as well. And that's when I moved on from the army. I did my executive MBA from IIM Indore. And from there, I got picked up by the Z Group, the Z Turner Group.
Right.
And that was my first foray into the media business.
The corporate side of it.
Yeah, and that was specifically media, because Z was a traditional media company, as you know. So I was there as the first employee leading the digital sales business. So which encouraged me to not only be a part of the media economy, but also taste the first blood when it came to digitization, because that was the first movement happening back in 2007, 8
7 and 8
to the digital world, where DTH was coming up and IPTV was coming up and CAS was coming up. So that became that was my first initiation into the world of media, and specifically digital media.
This is very strange. I have seen veterans. I mean, very young chaps are like veterans.
Yeah.
I have so many friends who are like from Navy.
Yeah.
And they finish their service for 10 years and then they are called veterans,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
This is very strange. They usually, I've seen army people and everyone entering the admin side operations, for what you're trained, disciplining
Yeah.
the people. How did sales happen for you, and that to digital?
That's another great question. Well, actually, you're right. Most of them go into the other sort of functions of the business, which is admin and HR and all. I think it's mostly because people feel that army officers themselves feel that they are probably good at that because they've been managing so many people in the past and they've been very operational in the way they manage them. I think it's a natural muscle that they have developed.
Yes.
But I also feel like army equips officers and people who've been serving in the army to be jack of all trades. We do everything under the sun, really. So it's a bit of a misnomer that most of the veterans are only good for admin or HR. I feel like veterans are good for almost literally every field that they choose to put their finger on. It's just that the tides have always been the way that, where army officers kind of organically, naturally fit into that space, and therefore they just take it as the lowest hanging fruit, I guess. But army teaches us everything, frankly. It makes us completely all-rounded individuals. And depending on what a person wants to do as an interested to do, one can go ahead and, pick their line of business. For me personally, I think I'm a eternal learner. I love to learn new things, then unlearn and then relearn. I mean, that's the journey of my life. So while I was in the army, there was great. I learned the army ways. But then I wanted to challenge myself when I came out of the army. I wanted to try something new, which I had not done before. And sales was that, clearly.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just get into it. And
that was a very bold call, because even if I've seen, I sit with so many B school guys, and sales is the last thing they want to do. Trust me.
But sales is the best thing too, because once you know how to, be on the front lines, then it's much easier for you to always, take out any other operational aspects of the business. Then when you know how to be a good salesperson for the product that you have, once you know how to build relations, because sales, I feel, are all about building relationships.
Absolutely.
It's all about people to people. Companies don't work with companies, people work with people. So if people are working with people, and if you are able to build a deep relationship, sales is a byproduct of that, I feel. And so for me, I think I always enjoy meeting new people. I always enjoy building strong relationships. And that kind of comes naturally to me. And therefore, sales for me was an extension of my own personality, in the sense that, let's make friends, let's meet new people, and sales will happen itself. So that's how it started. And then, for me, luckily has been that it just kind of progressed from one point to the other point. And from sales, I moved to partnerships and things like that. So it just has been a natural, natural path.
Progression.
Yeah.
So I want to deep dive a little bit. I'm picking this word because this has
been
my very favorite word, and I can see it on the book also. There is a kind of a military mindset. We all know that, right? You're pretty trained for building that mindset, which leads to resilience. And in the corporate side or the business side of the world also, I was just kind of brushing through some reports. Gone are the days when companies used to survive for 100 and 150 years. A very average age for a new company now is less than 30 years.
Yeah.
So a lot is spoken about and needs to be worked upon when it comes to mindset and resilience.
Yes.
So would you want to throw some light and equate, because A is talking to armchair experts, that people who have not seen the troubled waters, but they know that resilience is needed. And B, when you are in the Indian Army, constantly getting trained for that difficult day.
Yeah.
Your training is not because you're getting trained. You're not fighting every day, but you're fighting when that day happens. You got to be ready for it. What is the military mindset? And is the military mindset that can work for business? What is the simile? Do you see anything which is intersectional?
Intersectional between the military mindset and
a business mindset.
And the business mind.
Strategically.
Yeah, I think that's another good question. See, I feel like Army teaches us the basics of survival, the basics of resilience. I think those are very important, even in the troubled waters of the business world in which we normally operate in. If you tend to give up too early, if you tend to be too short-tempered, short-sighted, you're not going to gain any ground, really. Army teaches us a lot of resilience. It teaches us how do we weather and run through difficult times and, maintain a head on our shoulders with calm, authoritative leadership principles in place. Now, having said that, in terms of what are the mindset that are similarish between military and the corporate, there are many actually. See, for example, the first thing is how do you maintain a strategic mindset with having tactical short steps? right? So looking at the big picture, you should understand where you have to go. Army teaches us that, because while we are supposed to now, let's say, for example, hypothetically, if the objective is given to us, we know the broad objective that we need to go from point A to point B.
Correct.
But then the route mapping between point A to point B, what kind of obstacles we might encounter, how do we, distribute ourselves, how do we reconvene, how do we, face the challenges that might come in from wildlife or whatnot, different things. We got to plan for all those contingencies. And that is very similar to the business world also. We know what the North Star is, but to get there, there's a series of steps that one has to plan through. So that is something that Army teaches us right from the day one. The second piece is, how does one be adaptable? Like, while you should be going and doing what you should be going and doing, it is important to be adaptable to changes, because changes are unforeseen. They can come from any corner.
Correct.
And Army always teaches us that whatever you do, you've got to have a plan B.
Correct.
So how do you think about that mindset? How do you be as agile in your mind to think that, hey, this is what I want to do, but if things change, this is how I'll pivot, and that is again
quick shift.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what's been happening in the business world too. Like, not everything goes as per plans. Things do change. We spoke about algorithm changes. We spoke about platform bans. Things do change all the time. So how do you pivot? How do you make that shift?
Correct.
And the third thing I feel is that there's a sense of never say die spirit that the Army gives you.
Let's discuss that spirit, because it's easier said than absolutely done. Because
no, but again, I think it's also because there's a
when you're down, how do you think?
Well, personally for me, I always think that this too shall pass. That is number one. And it's not only true for the bad times, it's also true for the good times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this too shall pass. Nothing is permanent, number one.
Yeah.
But number two, I have, and I think every person who's been in the Army will also have a very people first sort of a mindset.
Correct.
So we have always been people who, as officers, as people who have undergone the training and all, we've always learned how to work with people. And there's a very strong sense of team building that we have. People in the Army are ready to lay down their lives for each other.
Correct.
The stakes are the highest possible. So if you've been trained for that, it is but a natural part of you to say that, hey, you will build a team that is very, very strong, and that will have that sense of camaraderie between each other.
Correct.
So that esprit de corps is very, very elementary to all of us, I feel. And I think in the Army, we pay a lot of emphasis on people management. So I think that really helps us a lot. Even when the times are tough, even when the chips are down, you always look around and you realize that, hey, you've got the plus points is like, what is the team that you have around you? It could be your own family, it could be your friends, it could be your inner circle, it could be your corporate colleagues or whatnot. So you understand that, okay, these are the people around you, these are your core team members, and how can you rely on them for what to kind of build you up again and, come out of the situation that you are in. I do that a lot. I do heavily lean on my support infrastructure.
Sure.
My support team, my core team, when the chips are down and I need to stand back up again, I really rely on my core team a lot, for that sense of the spirits of being able to continue facing what's happening, but also being able to keep that positive mindset at the end, that at the end of it, this all shall pass. Correct. And I'll come out of it well.
Yeah. As you said, I started thinking, you said, the stakes are that high, and I just thought that kudos to Indian Army and people in the Army and who are serving the country. The stakes we are talking about are not monetary stakes. We are talking about lives, right? What excuse would you have to not work as a team otherwise?
You have to, absolutely. And it is so heartwarming that when you're walking into a situation in the Army, you know that this guy has got your back. You know that you've got his back. And you know that come what may, you will... There is nothing more sacrificial than, giving your own life away for somebody and for a purpose, And that's what the Army kind of stitches you to become. So, I think there is no better organization in that sense to build lasting... I am still so closely friends with my colleagues from the army,
Yeah.
even though I left the army about 17 years back or something. But still, when I meet my course-mates, they are still like my brothers from the earlier days, and they're still like, we meet each other as if there was never a day away.
Bonding is
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's inherent, and not only with my own colleagues, but even I'll tell you an anecdote. My father was in the army, like I mentioned, and when he was in the army, in the regiment that he was in, I was maybe in 3rd class, 4th class. I was very tiny that time. I used to 5-6 years. And he used to go with, go to the school, or, one of my father's colleagues from the unit, like one of the soldiers, he used to take me to the school.
Yeah.
We used to walk together and all. I used to sometimes sit on his cycle behind him, and he used to take me to the school. And many years passed by, and, decades went by and all and whatnot. And then I joined the army after about 15 years from there. And one fine day, and luckily for me, I joined my father's regiment. Joined the same regiment my father was in. Of course, my father had retired and long gone by that time, but I joined the same regiment. So my father wasn't there. I joined in, and I was a newly commissioned, newly pipped up Lieutenant Saab, and just getting into the office for the first day or the second day of my journey in the army. And there's this soldier who comes in, and because he just comes into the office, so he salutes and greets me, and I greet him back. And he looks at me for a second, and he says, "Ankur Bhaiya." This guy was the guy I used to sit on the back of the cycle. 15 years back, he used to take me to the school. And now I was an officer right in there in front of him. He literally froze that moment, and I froze for a moment, and we both looked at each other and, hugged out and all. And that is the spirit of the army. So many years have passed by, but it always just feels like day one.
Is it the same thing, like, the burden of joining the same regiment like your father? People would reflect on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Let's talk about it. Is there a little burden when you are in the same?
I would
or
say-
is it a good thing?
Well, I think it's a bit of a legacy to match up to, because my father was very popular, and he was a very people's person, and people used to really love him. His soldiers used to really love him and all. So yes, I had very big shoes to fill in for sure. But then at the same time, when you are in a situation like that, you have to also create your own niche. I mean, I can't really be as good as my father or as bad as my father. I have to be my own, basically, and so I focused on that more, and I focused on creating my own legacy. And I hope that one day if my son would go back to the unit, they would still remember him. But yeah, I mean, I think I still go back to my regiment some days after so many years, and I still meet the colleagues at that time, the soldiers at that time who were with me when I was there as a captain and all, and they still recognize me, and we all still meet, and as if we've never parted or something. So I think I feel happy about whatever little I could do during my time. I think it was still a decent experience that I left behind for myself and for the people I served with.
Very well said. And it's a beautiful journey of life, right?
Yeah.
Because when I looked at your entire thing, for many people, it's like doing the same job or just changing one job to the other, and then your pivot has been really very strong steps. So from one to another to now. And it is no joke. It is absolutely no joke to be doing something what you did in Meta.
Yeah.
Like from 0 to 120,000 creator partnerships.
Yeah.
I want to now you to tell us, your experience in the corporate side, then you starting your own company. People should take inspiration from your journey is the whole point of understanding this.
Yeah. I've been very grateful, frankly. I've had a chance to, my mom keeps saying, by the way, that, you have been in the public sector.
Yes.
You have been in the private sector. You've been
Yes.
an entrepreneur. You're now being an author. The only way for you the only way left for you to make money is to not do anything more legal anymore. So you can only make money illegally, and that is the only checkbox that you have left now. So I mean, we'll see out that. But yes, it's been a very nice journey, and I feel very proud and very accomplished of the fact that you're absolutely right. It's not been any normal sort of
linear
a life.
thing.
Yeah, it's not been a linear journey for me at all. And I've had the opportunity of not only working in the army, but as an education tech entrepreneur, which was ranked as one of the top 15 educational web startups during its time. And then I have worked with various great companies, but the highlight has been my last 7-8 years with Meta.
Yeah.
In Meta too, I started my work with Meta was in Hyderabad, based in Hyderabad, looking after the media partnerships or the creator partnerships for all language markets in India. And then from there, I moved to Bombay. I lived here for 2 years, where I was leading media partnerships all across India, across all languages for all the emerging and the aspiring creators.
Wonderful.
And then I moved to Singapore to lead the Asia Pacific markets for them. After that, I moved to the US to lead the North American, Latin America markets.
You didn't leave any country, I believe. Wherever creators are existing.
Yeah, wherever. So right from Hyderabad to Houston, I guess, including Hong Kong in between. Yes. So yeah, it's been a great ride.
Let's talk about the landscape of creator economy. We'll come to the economic part later.
Sure.
But how do you see in the last, you were the first one to be witnessing partnerships, so to speak. How is that business all around?
See, the creator business is very unique, I feel, to every market, right? Yeah. And I feel like there is a level of maturity that is there in some markets, and some markets are still developing on that curve.
Correct.
Right. So, for example, I've had even in India for that matter, India is a country which is India, and then there is Bharat, and there are two different worlds which live together in this country. And so is the similar state when it comes to the creators as well. I feel like there's so many times when I talk to some of the creators and they are much ahead of the curve. They know exactly how they are mobilizing communities, how they're monetizing their communities, how they are building content, what is the niche, what is the data, what are the kind of trends lines that they should be following and all. And then I meet some other other creators who are very, very early on that curve. They don't really know if they are doing the right thing, or they're still struggling, they're still grappling in the middle space somewhere.
Correct.
And interestingly, the most interesting piece is that I've seen some creators who come from really sort of, let's say, regional village markets maybe, but they're doing extremely well for themselves. So they have understood. Though these are the hidden gems, I feel like they are the hidden stars of of the Indian creator ecosystem, because without many resources, without knowing where to look, without having that benefit of doing those tutorials or those classes and all those things, they have been able to just build themselves from the ground up, and they have understood the model of how and what works in the creator economy just by trial and error. I was reading an article recently on the blue collar worker influencers, and that's a story to be told, because I feel like people who are working at the brick kiln, or people who are working as daily laborers, or as truck drivers, or as people who are living in a village, they are the people who are actually documenting their journey and are gathering millions of views on their own daily journey. They don't need hi-fi sort of infrastructure or equipment. They're just using what they have, and they are being able to tell their story. And that's the first point. If you have a story, just tell it in a unique way. That's where you dive in right now, So that's where we started from, really. So I feel like if you have a unique story to be told, do not hesitate. It's just a question of you figuring out, the ins and outs of exactly the how and the ins and outs of the economy once you're getting into it. You can't be on the sideline and imagine that once you'll have the entire gyan of the creator economy, then you'll jump in. I think that'll be too late, and that'll be too it'll not be very sustainable for you as a creator then.
Absolutely.
You've got to jump in first, and then, start to find your way out. It's like learning how to swim,
From the beginning. Pardon me for asking this question, but I'm very sure that this is something that came out in our research also, that, if I'm sitting with you, I should be asking point blank something like this. In India, especially, we have very strong opinions. And as you rightly said, India is not India. There is a Bharat, there is India, there is regional, there is South, there is North, there is East, there is everything.
Yeah.
And of course there is West. So creators up until COVID were people trying to do something to pass their time. And because social media happened and they were doing something, I want you to reflect and explain it, that how serious this business is. In your introduction, I've given those very huge numbers, which I don't want to invest time on repeating again.
Sure.
But we are talking about $1 million business economy ahead of us. And 2030 is going to be bigger than what 2025 is. So my first question is this a right time for anyone who is creative with a story and is inclined towards creativity to become a creator full time? A, is this the right time? Or the bus has already passed? B, the second follow-up question on this would be, how do you see the whole business spectrum of creator economy and what is creator economy?
That's fantastic. I'm glad you brought it out. And if you may allow, I might want to just go back a little bit
Absolutely,
in time.
please. Stage is yours.
So there was, videos really came into being back in 1897. The video business, the moving videos, the sound videos, they all actually happened around the Second World War, the end of the First World War and all, or 1918, somewhere there. It has taken about 100 years for video at that point to be invented, like videos, moving videos and sound and all, to the level of maturity it is at right now.
Correct.
100 years.
Yeah.
It took for videos to be where they were to become very mainstream. In the year 2005 or 6 is when the social media came in.
Correct.
YouTube and Facebook, they all came in around 2005, 2004, 2005. And it took social media just 20 years to become exactly mainstream, right? It's the talk of everybody's, everywhere you go,
it's a
you're all
serious
talking
business.
about it. It is, right? So the speed of technology is moving really, really fast. And that is to say that ChatGPT, let's say when it launched, it reached million followers in a span of 5 days.
5 days.
So if the speed of technology and the speed of adoption of technology is that fast, then to your question, is this the right time? Hell yes. This is the right time, because very soon, even this will become a passing phase.
Gone the days.
Yeah. So if you want to pick up you want to get into the creator economy, and if you're thinking of whether I should wait for some more time and maybe this is the right time, the right time is right now. Like it is today evening. Pick your phone, get into it right out. Just because not only will you come in as a creator, but also the pace of adoption is so fast that if you have that unique sort of advantage of telling the right story, then there is no looking back in terms of how people will adapt to your storytelling also. So you will find a lot of followers finding you in this clutter of a lot of noise as well. You'll be able to, still throw your voice out there, and you will have the right sort of people, taking up to your content. So don't wait is my long way of saying that. Do not wait to see that, okay, maybe when I get more educated about it, or maybe when I have that camera, or maybe when I have, that infrastructure, then only when I have that right story to be told, maybe then it is right now, so.
There's another thought that comes in the minds of people who I have, interacted with. They started off and they left.
Yes.
And there are people who are still sitting right at the,
Yeah.
right at the bank saying that, okay, should we get into this ship or no? The thought that is troubling them is in the mindset, and maybe you will be able to build that confidence because you're leading this business globally. They think we have missed the bus. What's the point of starting now? Dhruv Rathi is Dhruv Rathi, Joe Rogan podcast is the podcast, or Andrew Huberman is the podcast in the world,
Yeah.
How do you explain that there is enough business for everyone? And what is that business?
So let's look at it this way. The creator economy itself is about $250 billion globally up till 2024. It's now even more.
Yeah.
And as per the report, as per the research, as per the readings that I see, the creator economy is set to double itself to $500 billion in a span of 4 years by 2027-28. So if that is the speed of acceleration, so you can well imagine the headroom for people to come in and make an economy.
Yeah.
If $250 billion is becoming $500 billion in just 3 to 4 years. So while people have already definitely, and you're right, to give due advantage, people are to give due credit, people have really made that advantage for themselves. Yeah, they have got that advantage. They have got their head start. But it does not stop for more people to do equally or even better. It does not mean that if, the names that you called out, they're all brilliant. They have all achieved, great amount of stardom. But at the same time, the playing field is pretty leveled at the moment. There are more and more people who are joining in as consumers, as, people who want to consume more and more content. And if your content is resonated with them, they will be, you could be the next Dhruv Rathi or, Andrew Huberman or something. So I don't think that should be a leverage to say, or that should be a point for you to say that, because there are some top leaders, therefore I should not start.
Do I have a space?
Yeah, I think it's more to say that because there are top leaders, therefore I should start. Because
they've already done that.
Yeah, so it's proven. It's not a fly by night kind of a thing. If they've proven the model, then maybe it's good for me too. Actually, that's the way to look at it.
And in the creative space, it's all about you not I would flip it. It's actually reinvent the wheel in a different way again. Is it right to say?
Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying it, because you know what? In the book also I mentioned this, by the way. I say that there are three kind of people, One are the actioneers.
Yeah.
I call them the ABC of people, actually.
Okay.
So A are the actioneers, people who dive into action.
Right.
People who are not thinking too much. They are more executioners. They just get into it and then they start figuring their way out. B category are the people who are born naturals. So born naturals are the people who may not have started off, but the moment they start, they are just naturally inclined to it. They just pick it up like this, So they are the born naturals. And the third category, the C category, is the curious onlookers. Because these guys will be sitting on the fence and they'll keep on watching. Maybe now, maybe tomorrow, maybe now.
Let me look at this
Yeah,
one.
let's see what he does. Let's see what that person does. So these are the guys who will always be on the fences, and they'll keep on sitting and they'll keep on wondering whether it's the right time for them or not.
Correct.
So I would say that even if you should always be in A category, which is an actioneer category, get into it. If you're a B born natural, that will always be your advantage. You'll always just bump up high.
Correct.
But C category is the people who will just keep on overthinking the whole thing. So I would say that, hey, that's the space that you want to avoid because you really want to be getting into it sooner than later.
Absolutely. How has been your experience working with Meta? Let's talk about some of the challenges.
Well, Meta is a brilliant organization, frankly. I love it. And I feel like, I don't know whether the challenges at Meta would be something that I really experienced, because I frankly experienced a startup that is a big company that works as a startup, and they have the right ethos, they have the right people. There's a lot of incentivization for the teams to work together. There's a very strong, solid culture of, the culture that I spoke about in the army, I got your back, you got my back.
Correct.
So people do work progressively towards common goals and drive impact in that sense. So I feel like it's a great company, frankly, to be working in. In terms of the challenges, the only challenge that if I may say, is that there's more potential to be in a company like Meta and to uncover. I think they are underserving themselves. There could be much more that a company can do, actually, that the people in the company can do. Because, there are so many different priorities probably that people get distracted and, start working on different impact areas. But frankly, I think there's more merit in a company like Meta if I was there right now, to start thinking about how do I actually build deep into the area of chosen impact.
Correct.
And be able to kind of work more in depth rather than just doing too many things at a shallow
level. At the surface level, which is just...
Yeah. That's the only thing that I feel was a bit challenging while I was there, that there was no much time to kind of go deep into one area of expertise, but we had to do like 5 different things, and that maybe is a right thing also from the other lens, because as a company like Meta, which is very big, you probably have to be doing a lot of things to
and
stay.
They just started the right thing at the right time, so
they
had no time to be just digital, and you're the company, and you're reinventing and inventing, and you're in the forefront.
No, absolutely. I think there's always a pressure of, and in the world in which we live, platforms do get redundant very quickly. So there is a constant need to innovate and to be at the forefront. It is a constant need. It's a requirement to be always very nimble and always be innovative in the approach and all. So I think, and that can only happen, by the way, when you're doing 10 different things.
Correct.
And then 9 things aren't working, but this one thing is, so let's just go deep into it,
Yes.
So maybe that's why the whole process is. But having said that, see, the creator economy, I feel, is a very, very, I couldn't say that it's at the early stage, but it's at that stage where it needs nourishment. And it needs platforms to come in and give the right kind of support to the creators.
You mean more platforms?
More platforms, or even the current ones, to give more support to the creators.
You think there's scope for new platforms?
there is 100% scope for more platforms. Like for example, let's take India for example, like TikTok. When TikTok got banned in 2020 over here, there were platforms that jumped in to take that space, right? And there were some Indian,
ShareChat.
Yeah.
But apparently they could not
create as much,
build that brand for themselves that everybody is on Josh or on ShareChat. Unfortunately,
I think
it's
so.
very funny. How do you translate this? Because at the same time, it's a paradox. We feel that there is scope. But then ultimately, even if you look at your own consumption, because it is Instagram, so I'm going to Instagram to consume content, or it is LinkedIn, or it is YouTube, right? But if you tell me, Poonam, you have to build a habit for a new fourth platform, A, I may not be having that kind of time, and B, why should I? I sometimes think about it.
I think the why is the easier part to handle. Because see, when TikTok got banned over here, people had built entire audiences, their entire businesses on TikTok. The point I'm trying to make is that creators who have built their businesses, creators who have created an entire livelihood over there, everything stands to get lost in that one fraction of a second.
Absolutely.
So oftentimes the analogy that is being used is that, hey, this is like building your businesses on platforms like YouTube,
that
Facebook.
You have no authority or you don't know what's going to happen.
It's like
tomorrow.
building on rented land.
Yes.
If you are on rent, you can be kicked out tomorrow morning. Even though if you pay your full rent, you can still be kicked out. So idea is to own your audiences in some shape and form. So one option is obviously to hedge your risk by having multiple platforms and building your streaming, securing your communities across multiple platforms. But the other and probably the more important aspect is how do you figure out that you own this audience, like when you have the direct line to the audience.
Correct.
So therefore, while I encourage more and more platforms to come up, and as creators, more and more creators should also go into multiple platform strategies. I think the most important part of that entire function is for creators to find out, okay, who are their loyal fans, who are their true fans, who are their top fans, and be able to build some sort of a interaction with them directly. That crosses and bypasses the fringes of the platform only. Because if tomorrow something goes wrong, at least your community is with you.
Absolutely.
Coming back to the same point when I said, people working with people, at the end of the day, when even my chips are down, I'm looking at the people community around me.
Correct.
So we are looking at communities at the end of the day, whether it's your narrow community or your short community or your tight community or your user community or your audience community, the broader one as well. So the aim should always be as a creator to figure out how do you get to that, to the last email address, to that, how do you build a WhatsApp group which has got your top fans in there? How do you build an email group that has got your top fans in there? How do you build a community which is interacting and communicating with each other, and you are the one who's like the center of that community? If you can to that space, then there are multiple ways that you can actually move beyond the limitations of the platform and be able to create an economy beyond the platform.
Wonderful. I was just going to come to that. Now that we have drawn the formula of how to build the economy, right? So I think you've cleared one thing, that it's not just about we throwing big numbers to the people.
Yes.
That it is big $1 billion economy. Economy is what we need to understand from this perspective of this business, which is community-led business, is what you're trying to say.
And I think...
So paise kaise kamaye?
So exactly. And just you were talking about earlier, कि many people feel like, some of the top, positions already taken, or people drop out and all. The point is that do you want to be a top person in that space, or you want to build an economy around you? Like, for example, I've been talking to a lot of creators who might have a lot of followers, but they're still not making money.
Correct.
But on the other hand, there are some creators who might have even 5,000 followers and they are already making a decent amount of money.
Let's talk about this.
So whole point is, like, if you are making a community, if you have that sense of a business ownership, first of all, look at it as a business. Look at it as that you are the product, and you're going to reach out to these audiences or these users who are the users of your product. So your content is the one that they are consuming.
Correct.
Right? And so therefore you've got to figure out a way that you are one-on-one with them. Now once you are one-on-one with them, there are multiple ways to monetize it. Like, a lot of times, I think the prohibition in our head is that we got to only rely on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and all. I think we've got to break away from that mindset and start thinking about other new platforms. I love the platforms like Kajabi. I love the platforms like Patreon. I love this Indian platform which is called Topmate.
Yeah.
These are brilliant platforms which enable a creator to come one-on-one with their communities.
Correct.
Which enable them to launch courses, which enable them to launch mentorship sessions or have those premium content for paid consumers or paid users. Cultivate that audience first and then take them onto these platforms. Like if you are a newsletter writer, move to Substack. You can publish on LinkedIn also, that's great. But the point is you don't own that audience again. If LinkedIn tomorrow changes an algorithm, you are screwed.
Correct.
So you got to figure out a way that how do you maybe work on Substack or some other platform like that so that you are able to get one-on-one with your audiences and then maybe have different, if your audiences, if you think that's a business model for you, you can take a piece of content from your newsletter and elaborate on that for paid subs.
Correct. Correct.
You can have mentorship sessions like I was talking about. You can have sneak peeks. You can have shoulder content that can be shared with your audiences only, just paid audiences. So there's so many ways that people are doing. And then of course, increasingly, the brands are getting smarter. The brands are also realize that there is just no point if you have 1 million followers, but hardly any engagement.
No, correct. Traction. Yeah.
So a lot of times we know that AI is kind of getting the better of us, and therefore a lot of AI bots are now, becoming those consumers, and they're just kind of checking in and all, which the brands have started to see. So the brands are now kind of looking for more engaged audiences. So if you are a smaller creator even, but have a more engaged audience, you are a much better prospect for a brand than somebody who's got 1 million followers and less engagement.
Correct.
And that's where the dollars are also.
Yes.
Because if the brands are starting to work with you, hey, that's where you start unearthing the real economies, And then more and more brands, as I see today, are trying to become more and more human. Like, they're trying to humanize themselves. They don't want to be seen as a brand, but they want to be seen as something which is a part of a social conversation.
Correct.
So if a brand is trying to be a social conversation and you are the one who's catalyst to that conversation,
it's a great fit.
It's a great fit then, So that's where I feel like, as a creator, don't run crazily after just numbers, because numbers don't mean anything unless you don't make something out of those numbers, unless you don't kind of have that two-way traffic with those numbers.
Absolutely.
It makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will make a lot of sense to people and it gives that clarity. So for Indian creators, right, I see a lot of courses getting floated around that how do you monetize? You have to spill the beans. You are on the PVT show. People should, I'm very sure people will pick up the book also, but then something that should be a key takeaway from this podcast, like, how do you monetize? What are the steps people need to take, new creators or with community people?
Yeah. Like I just mentioned, I think first of all, it's important for you to get into it.
Yeah.
Number 2, nurture your audience. Number 3, identify those paying audiences. Number 4, try to move to a platform where you can actually have an interaction with those paid audiences, either through, let's say, courses or subscription models or which not. And number 3, a lot of times, I think I was reading a report somewhere that out of the top 10 brands today, the top 10 brands barely get 3 inbounds in over 10 days or 15 days from creators.
Oh, really?
What that means is a lot of creators today, if they're small creators, they feel that, the big brands won't engage with them and they're not reaching out. I think as a creator, you've got to be very proactive in terms of selling yourself to brands, and a lot of times it's not just about the big brands, like the Nikes and the Adidas and the Coca-Colas, they already have their roster.
Sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the emerging brands that really need the creators more. And that is where I feel like a lot of small creators, emerging creators miss the bus because they are too busy, showcasing themselves to the big brands, which is already in a very cluttered space.
You're absolutely right. The MSMEs only in India are more than 1 crore. And they haven't explored the influencer marketing yet.
Yes.
Because I don't think there is any platform to promote it to them,
Yeah, and luckily in India, there's a very structured approach to it.
Yeah.
I mean, ONDC is a great platform. One can really go through that. That's a big catalyst for MSMEs and all.
Yeah.
A lot of times, small creators are not able to reach to those small brands. And frankly, it's the brands, if you remember the last time you walked into a mall and you saw this fashion boutique store over there.
Local boutique.
Yeah, local boutique. Yeah. They want to scale. They don't have the money to pay to a big agency to run an ad show on the traditional television.
Correct.
But do they have the money to pay a creator? Yes.
Yeah.
Will they get more bang for the buck if they work with the creators? Probably yes.
Yes.
Are they doing it right now? They're not.
No.
So that's where I feel that there's a lot to be uncovered. Small creators, emerging creators, aspiring creators, and small and medium brands. I think this is a marriage waiting to happen. And even if it means that you might have to work with 10 different brands, it is good for the brand, it is good for the creator, and there's enough and more for everybody to kind of, in India particularly, where the startup culture is so heavy, it is a great space for brands to engage with smaller creators.
That's how the platform of Shark Tank has become one display platform for brands, you know, which I think sharks have been hating it because I believe you don't want money from us. You have come here for branding. And I say, yeah, absolutely. Why somebody should not come for branding? Because that's a platform.
Yeah.
Somebody 100%. Will get money and somebody will get branding. I think the stage is set now. Would you want to throw some light on how brands, smaller brands, as you said, how they have to look at creator economy who are not still onto it, and how, because medium size, like for example, I am currently consulting so many MSMEs and SMEs where they are never going to be thinking of building an entire marketing department. And that's why as a strategist, we plug in as fractional CMOs. We go fix their thing, fix their stuff. They are launching something. They have a product launch or they don't even know they have a product launch. I want to actually start with that because they would think that we want to do something. Marketing karna hai. Kya hota hai marketing? How? And then they see so many avenues because I think marketing was very, very easier when I started out. It was simple. Put an ad, put a hoarding, wait for numbers for 4 months. And after 4 months, you would know if it is working or no. Think again. Very simple. Now, the agility and mindset has to be so fast. Because if it is not working, evening, you would know your numbers. How would you go back and sleep comfortably?
That's true.
And because of that, I think because of that very fast, the high lightning speed decision making that has to happen in the media world today, minus the ATLs of the world. So if you're advertising in IPL, it is structured, you are planning, it's been 6 months that you're looking at content and making content for it. But for smaller brands, what would be your suggestion? SMEs, MSMEs, startups. Startups, I think, are more open towards creators. But otherwise, 1 crore is a very large number. How should they approach?
No, I think that's a great question. And by the way, in the book, I also talk a lot about this matrix.
Really?
Of large brands and large creators, large brands and small creators.
Wonderful.
Small brands and small creators and large brands. I mean, the whole matrix, basically.
Yours is the only book I have not read and I'm sitting with you. Usually I have the book and
so there is a whole section about, all the 4 permutations that can be there between small and big creators and small and big brands.
Wonderful.
And talks in depth about how can a small brand really start working with a creator, whether a small creator or even a large creator. Right. Let's say, for example, a small creator, a small brand that was earlier, I don't know whether you know this, On Shoes.
Yeah, of course.
It's a Swiss brand.
It's a fantastic product.
And then Roger Federer became the ambassador for this. And this brand was very small at the time, and Roger Federer had a long, I think 10-year and more sort of a relationship with Nike at that time.
Yes.
And he moved his relationship from Nike to On. And On was a very small company at the time. So as a small brand, they were able to work with a very, very, very influential, big sort of personality.
How did that happen?
So that's where the whole point is. Like, small brands need to start thinking about more in terms of, hey, what is the value that they can provide to the creator? It doesn't only have to be a transactional value, because if you want to work with a very big creator today,
equity and stake
is there, definitely. And also there should be I feel like a lot of creators today, if there's a natural fit, if there's a value fit between what the creator is talking about and what the brand is, if the brand can offer an opportunity for the creator to be a part of the product development as well.
Yes.
If they can make that creator a part of the
synergies.
Story. Yes. Yeah. And it's not just about, like, obviously equities are important, but at the same time, for creators, what is important is that they are playing a part in the development piece as well. Like, how do they, like I've seen Steve Bartlett.
Skin in the game.
That's exactly right, So how do you really put yourself out there as a part
That's
of
a
the
very
product
creative
itself?
thinking.
Yes.
Not everybody is doing it for money.
Yes,
They have already arrived.
They already
enough
have money. They already are good enough. But they want to be a part of something which is probably
Creative.
game changing, which is creative, which is new and hasn't been done before. So that's where I feel like a lot of creators, the big ones, are looking at. The small creators are, for a small brand and a small creator, that marriage is still okay. That can happen because
Transactional marriage.
because everybody is looking at the same kind of North Star. Both of them are looking at growing their brand, the brand persona and all. So there is a common alignment in that sense. And of course, one is the brand and the other is the financial aspect of it. So if there's a model that can work between both of them, that really works well. Then I've also seen a lot of small creators working with big brands. Now that's again very difficult because the Nikes and the Coca-Colas and the big brands, they already know what they're doing and they're already doing it with some of the top talent, So why should a Coca-Cola work with a small creator?
Why?
And that's exactly why, because a lot of times, again, comes back to the original point of how the high engagement is there and how brands can see at the end of the day, every brand, every product is trying to sell their product.
Correct.
Right? It's a numbers game at the end of the day. That is the bottom line, right? I mean, whatever we might be talking about, everything boils down to the fact that, where is that end dollar coming in? And in many ways of the way that I look at it, and also in the book that I've spoken about, is that there is if you look at the original sales pipeline or the sales funnels. There's a attention, interest, desire, and action. Right? So if you look at the AID, the attention, interest, and desire, that comes from the creators. Where you have a creator, when you can create a buzz about a particular brand, where you need some noise in the market, when you want people to talk about it, when you want tens of creators to go ahead into the market and start deploying their product and just making noise about it, that's where the creators come in. That's where the smaller creators come in, But when you want to drive action, when you want to drive that buy action, when you want the dollars to be spent and earned, that is where the influencers come in.
I think we will need a new terminology for this because I can clearly see now that marketers' brain is on, the BTL is the smaller creators and the ATL where impact, is the larger creators. I think we will need to write a new book, right?
There's always a scope.
And new definitions, for the new age marketers
Exactly.
to know because BTL and ATL is...
You're right. And a lot of times I feel like a lot of people get confused between what is a creator and what is an influencer.
Absolutely.
That's
where I started. So
so a lot of folks start to kind of figure out, like, we use these terms very loosely and very fluidly in between, creator, influencer, but actually मेरे को लगता है कि there's a very distinct line between both of them.
Absolutely.
A creator can be an influencer, an influencer can be a creator also. But still there's a definition, there's a difference in who they are and what they're driving.
Correct.
And that's why I was very careful about saying that in the IDA model, the attention, interest, and desire is driven by a creator, while the influencer drives the action, the last piece.
Which is influencer or ATL, so to speak.
Making that move, making that move, driving that action finally, So that's how I look at it. And it's almost like saying that, if you look in a house, there could be two doors. For a person who's living in that house, there could be an influencer door and there could be a creator door. So people can easily walk from this door to that door.
Correct.
Because it's in the same house.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're wearing the creator hat and sometimes you're wearing the influencer hat. Yeah. When you're driving action, that's where you're driving an influencer hat.
Correct.
When you're driving creative, like when you're driving just, let's say, brand resonance or brand awareness, that's where you're wearing a creator hat. So for a larger brand to work with a small creator, it's important for them to understand.
It's a small nudge happening at different touch points.
At different markets. Like you spoke about India, Bharat, multiple language markets and all. Yeah. That's where you need creators. That's where you need more and more sort of buzz. So there are peaks and valleys, right? I mean, there are plateaus and let's say peaks.
Yes.
So plateaus are the time when there are no new product launches happening, but there's a plateau. But you still need the brand to be spoken about. That's when you need creators. But then there's a product launch that's happening and you want to drive that impact or that action.
Big bang.
Yeah, that's where you go with an influencer model or something like that. I mean, it depends again on a brand to brand strategy, but again,
wonderful.
That's how my visualization of the entire process is. And that's how whenever I advise brands, I talk about this model.
Well, thank you so much. I think all the my CMO friends are going to really have a great takeaway because forever it is like, so you know what, you have explained it so beautifully. Thank you so much, Ankur.
Oh, come on.
No, seriously, because if you have budgets, the moment you have budget, right? Whatever, ABC, the first thinking is, oh, I have budget. Let's do influencer marketing. We never say, let's do creative marketing. The creator marketing is not even a word, which I think through this podcast, it needs to go out, because you need to completely, diversify your planning and strategy. Your media plan for influencer marketing, and now diversify into different legs of it. So there must be a creator budget.
Yeah, there should be, absolutely.
The moment you have influencer good budget, chalo influencer marketing karte hain. Budget nahi hai, how to do influencer marketing? No, guys, start thinking there is a creator marketing.
And then you burn yourself out very quickly. You know, you burn all that money very quickly, because you just...
And there is no amplification happening.
Yeah. And agar hoega bhi, to it will be like in a burst.
Yes, and it's over.
Khatam. But as a creator, like soda water, like creator, you can still maintain a volume and buzz around the time, you know, in between those, like the peaks and the plateaus.
And it works for the brand also, because it's going to be taking care of their budgets as well as, I think it's a great thing that you have mentioned.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think it's really a change in perspective on how you look at the whole thing.
Sure.
And I feel like, there's so much to uncover in the creator economy space that people are, I hope that book will give some clarity on this, but the fact is that it's not as difficult as it sounds. It is pretty simple. It's just pretty straightforward. You know, I've always talked about this, Poonam, that I talk about a 5C framework, which I'm highlighting a lot in the book.
Sure.
And this is a 5C framework because I feel like the entire creator ecosystem or the creator economy can be simplified into these 5 Cs.
Okay.
You know, the first C is the creator.
Yeah.
The creator is the heart and soul. We all are people who are creators. You are a creator, you are the heart and soul of the creator economy. That's where it all starts, right?
Correct.
The C2, the second C, is a collaborator, is the brands.
Correct.
Because the brands are collaborating with the creators and creating content or branded content and whatnot to kind of fuel the creator economy. That's where the dollars are pumping in. The third C is the channels.
Yeah.
Channels are the platforms.
Correct.
Now, Facebooks, Instagrams, TikToks, X, LinkedIn, all of those different platforms.
So distribution channels, right?
Yeah, wherever the content is
getting published.
Placed.
Okay.
Yeah. The fourth C is the commerce. Commerce is the angle that you and I have been talking about all this while, where apart from the ad dollars, what else is the way that a creator can make money? Whether through newsletters, through podcasts, through mentorship sessions, through one-on-ones, through courses, all of those things. They all come in over here. The C, the fourth C.
Commerce.
And the fifth C, which is the spine of the creator economy, is people like you and me as consumers.
Wow.
Or the community. So I think everything, all of the creator economy just goes around these 5 Cs, and if all of these 5 Cs interact and transact with each other, and that is basically in a nutshell what the creator economy is. I know that was a question that you had asked a little earlier, like what is the creator economy? And that is my definition of what the creator economy is. It's a framework of these 5 Cs.
It's your IP. Have you trademarked this?
There was
a Philip Kotler and there is Ankur Mehra, guys.
Should do this.
Yeah, creator economy also needs the Philip Kotler, so why not? So Ankur, my finale question, you could say, I want to have so much to be talking to you.
Yeah,
of course we can go on and on.
This is on and on, yeah.
Why this book at this time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a question I want to ask everyone. I keep repeating the same thing, and I'm very proud to repeat that. Hey, for any business, we have tomorrow somebody will make a meme on me also because I keep repeating the same thing. There is always a seed idea to start a business. For authors also, there is a seed when they start thinking of a book.
You're right.
So what happened? That one night you thought, I need to put it out in my book.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And the genesis of this, the seed, as you said, is... takes me back to my army days.
Sure.
Because when I was in the army and when we were deployed in some, remote corners of the country, there was no way that we were in touch with anybody else in the world.
Correct.
Like we did not know what our friends were doing, what was happening in the country, whatnot. The only way we were connected to the country was through radios at that time, transistors.
Correct.
We had those portable radios and we used to listen to the news and we used to listen
Sandesh aate
to music sunte the usi mein. कुछ भी देखते थे, कुछ भी सुनते थे, जो भी आ रहा था उसमें, but that was a connection to the rest of the world, right? That is where my first initiation into the media world was at that time, because I started to appreciate the power of media.
How it is connecting
people, wherever they might be, and how does it bring a smile to people in whichever difficult situation they might be. So the media piece became like ingrained in my head at that time when I look back now at my journey.
It explains now.
And then, when I came out and I started working with the different companies like the Z Group and all, slowly I moved into the digital media space and all. And I realized that the traditional gatekeeper media broadcasting channels, who were the big guys with the big monies, the big resources, the big studios and everything, they were being replaced because content was getting so democratized. Content, the whole big studio and everything was translated into your phone.
Correct.
And everybody became a content creator just because they had a phone in the pocket.
Yeah.
So the playing field was leveled basically.
Yeah.
And then as I kind of moved on into my journey and all, and I happened to work in different countries, working with thousands and thousands of creators and all, I figured that there's a way that I can use the experiences that I've gained in these multiple markets, working with so many different levels of creators,
Absolutely.
starting working with so many different small and medium businesses. I can use all of this learning related back to the world that I came from, which was back in the army days, the transistor world that I was in, and see that, if I can write a book together and bring out all of these concepts together, and basically try and educate and inform the world about what the creator economy is and how can they play a part and how can they create their economy from the creator economy. I think that would be my giving back to the society as such.
Wonderful.
So I think that it all came from there. Like all the dots started to connect for me about a year back when I started writing the book. It's taken me about a year now to come out with this book, but yeah, because of the research and the work that has gone behind it.
Right.
And also I've also put in a lot of personal anecdotes from my own life, my own journey about how it all kind of played in together. And lastly, I also have a concept. I'm also very futuristic in terms of while today in this world where we are, this is where the reality is. But give it another couple of years and the world will change. The creator economy will not be like this because of the advancements of technology that we are seeing.
Which is happening,
And it's happening at the speed of light, So the creator economy would have evolved in the next couple of years. So therefore, the book also talks about a section on the future of what the creator economy is. How can people prepare for that? And it's not my words. I've interviewed some, I think 7 top industry creator economy experts globally from the US market, from UK, from other markets to share what their hot takes are for the next 2, 3, 4 years of the creator economy.
Absolutely.
And I've put that in there as well so that people can not only understand where they are at today,
how they have to think.
How do they have to start thinking about the future and how can they play the game, from a position of advantage rather than from a position of, hey, what I've been now, ab kya karna hai? From that point of view.
So if you're wanting to be in the creative field and be a creator and continue to be a creator, this is the book for you, for sure.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. My parting
and even
question,
a small business, by the way.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because you said that you have mentioned that also.
Yeah.
So I am, the more you speak, the more questions I'm going to have. But yes, I need to precisely ask you one last question on this. AI and humans, the conflict. I look at collaboration.
Yeah.
But the conflict exists because why? Okay, you need to explain me
because
that.
Because why the conflict exists? Okay, that's a great question. I think the thing is, for sure, AI is going to be, and I'm a big proponent of AI. I'm a big thinker that this is the step in the right direction, and we all need to progress and use technology to the best and leverage it to the max. Rather than getting on the victim side of it.
Absolutely.
But having said that, and to your question, because you asked me a question about why is this a conflict, I feel like the speed of development in AI can actually be an existential crisis for creators.
Yes.
Because the deep fakes that are coming in,
the Soras of the world,
they're becoming more and more realistic.
Yes.
And this is today when AI is probably at its worst form today.
Yes.
This is the basic form of AI that we're seeing today. Imagine another 3-4 years.
Yes.
It's going to be much, much, much more sophisticated. And there'll be a creator who will be an AI creator. And that AI creator will look better, will talk better.
You think there will be an AI avatar and somebody will be doing this podcast?
Oh, yes. 100%.
I would want to do it.
You'll be the one who will be guiding that AI avatar, maybe using it to an advantage where we can have not only just 1 or 2 podcasts, but you'll be probably able to have 15.
5 together.
Yeah. There will be so much more that you can use that AI avatar to do. You'll be the commander, using it to your advantage rather than,
correct.
So, but definitely, I feel like if the creators are not able to pivot very quickly or able to evolve rather fast, then they are at a risk of being, almost eliminated by AI.
It's going to be a game now.
Yes.
We are in the game.
Yeah, we are already in the game. The
Already
question
in
is,
the
how do
game.
you use technology to your advantage?
Yeah.
Therefore, it's very important for people to start educating themselves
Yes.
now
Yes.
about what the future is going to be and how can they leverage it better. We all say that there is definitely going to be the human element is always going to be the most important element. Human element is going to be the novelty, and that's going to be the differentiator between the clutter of the content coming from AI and original authentic pieces of voice coming from human beings. And that's going to be the more premium sort of content, and that's where we'll be able to kind of rise above the machines.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, my takeaway too. Like, for the end of it, I think while AI is always going to get sophisticated, it's always going to get better, but the element of human touch shall never be duplicated.
Can be.
So therefore, even if you have an AI avatar over here doing your podcast, the podcast that you will do as a human being is probably going to be...
Thank you so much. And as
We had to plug that in.
age-old saying goes, that hard work always pays. So I
There
think
you
people who will do the hard work of coming live
Yeah.
and doing it,
Yeah.
and not just giving it to machines to do it,
Yep.
will always have
Will
that
always
little
have it.
upper edge.
And there's always going to be an element of emotionality,
Yes.
which machines can't replicate,
Machines
So,
cannot. Even if they try.
yeah.
So guys, we are better off.
Always.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure meeting
Such a
you.
pleasure to be doing this conversation. And I wish you so very best for this very awesome book. I am going to be one of the first people to pick this up the moment they are in the market.
Yes, thank you. I
Congratulations.
really appreciate.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And please, people.
Yeah. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ankur.
Thank you very
Lovely.
much.
Thank you.